Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association, and today I'm joined by New Jersey Sportswriter of the Year, James Kratch. James, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you, Jake. Glad to be here.
Well, first off, James, I know you cover Rutgers. It's kind of your main coverage. I want to know what brought you into the industry, though, first off.
I think at some point I realized that I wasn't going to play first base for the Yankees, so I had to kind of come up with a plan B. And, I was always kind of in school. I was good at writing, and obviously I love sports. And I kind of realized that, you could marry the two things together. So I would say I started writing for the student newspaper in high school, obviously. And by the end of high school, I knew I wanted to pursue this as a career as I headed off to college.
And you write for NewJersey.com, NJ.com, that is, and you were a South Carolina alum. So, you've been around some pretty big sports markets and college markets, especially. What would you say has been your most fun event to cover, or maybe just, one of your favorite pieces you've been able to write about?
Oh, wow. I would say, in terms of, when you're in a career, like I've, 10 years plus, 4 years in college, the games sort of start to run together at some point. I think, one of the things that definitely stands out to me was when I was in college, 2010, I believe I got the season right. South Carolina upset undefeated #1 reigning national champion Alabama. So that was really cool. I remember that day, you kind of felt like you were standing at the center of the college football universe. And obviously Carolina went on to win the SEC East that year. I got lucky that I was there for the halcyon days of Steve Spurrier's tenure. 2019 NCAA wrestling championships. In the current spot, the Rutgers beat was great. Obviously, Rutgers had 2 national champions, Anthony Asheville and Nick Soriano. So that's a day I certainly fondly remember. When I covered the Giants, I was fortunate enough to be at the Super Bowl in Houston, the 28-3 game. So that obviously stands out, although it was kind of, you're writing so feverishly, they didn't get to kind of take in everything that was going on. So I've been fortunate to see a lot of crazy things. When I was in college, I saw the #1 team in the country get upset in football, baseball, and men's basketball. So that was pretty cool. Great NFL games, the 52-49 game in the Superdome. Wow, the Saints-Giants, where I think Drew Brees threw 7 touchdown passes. I think Eli threw 6. So I've seen a lot of great events. I've been fortunate to kind of be there.
And I wanted to ask you too, talking about a crazy run, this Rutgers team from this past season in college basketball, that is, such a wild team to have some big wins, some quad 1 wins, end their year just short in the play-in game. But what did you make of a team on that so many experts had so many varying opinions on this year?
Yeah, well, I would remiss if I said it. Brian Fonseca, one of my partners on the Rutgers beat, he's kind of our basketball guy. He does an excellent job. This Rutgers men's basketball team has been so fascinating because it almost feels like a 3-act play. You had the 2020 year, which was probably the best team they've had of this run. And obviously they beat Maryland, they stormed the floor, they're going to make the tournament, and then the pandemic hits. And then it was just this 2021 team was this long slog to just finally realize it, get in the tournament. Even when they get in, it's in the bubble in Indianapolis. There's no fans the whole season. It just felt like it was grueling to get to that point. And then this year was just a total roller coaster ride of the high expectations for the team, horrible non-conference season, come out of nowhere, make the tournament, play a classic game in the first 4. So just one of the more interesting things I've ever, reported out of my career, just because it was such a long process and so different those 3 seasons.
Well, it sure was. It was fun to follow, even from an outsider's perspective, and just curious to see how far they'd go. They seem like one of those teams that could easily be capable of making it to the Sweet 16 this year. But I want to ask you, James, this is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. Well, what does it mean to you?
It's an honor. It's a huge honor. I mean, it's definitely an honor to share it with my beat partner, Keith Sargent, who's the co-New Jersey Sportswriter of the Year. I think the best way I can say in journalism is you don't get into journalism for the awards, but they feel nice, and I obviously a lot of tremendous people, tremendous colleagues and friends and people you look up to have also won this award for their various states and national levels. So it's just a big honor, and it's kind of humbling.
And who were some of the sports writers you looked up to, when you were first getting into the industry? I'm really curious.
Oh, wow. So I would say when I was in college, Ron Morris, who was the columnist at the state newspaper, Gene Sapikoff, Charles Post-Courier, who I think may have also been a state award winner this year. just to be able to see those guys work. Other Josh Kendall, who I believe is at The Athletic now. He was the Gamecocks beat writer. Neil Young. I mean, it's just to kind of see those guys, to learn from those guys. Travis Haney, who I think is out of the industry now. And then being in New Jersey, Bob Glover at Newsday, Steve Politti, my colleague, the Star Ledger, Sarge, who I mentioned, tremendous, Dan Duggan, Connor Hughes, guys at The Athletic, I've had the pleasure to work with, Ryan Dunley. Just a lot of things. I think the biggest advice I could give to an aspiring sports writer is be nice to everybody, get to know everybody, and read everyone. And you and this learn, watch them, especially college journalists, just watch the pros, learn from them, see what they're doing, and kind of try to emulate them as you move forward.
I love that. That's great advice. And the last question I wanted to ask you, and thank you so much again for your time, James, is, what after COVID and following COVID, what have you learned about being a sports writer, and what has it taught you, aside from just the, more Zooms and more virtually oriented?
I think it's taught me that, one, we've got a really great job, and I think it's also taught me that, the stuff that was a nuisance pre-COVID, you suddenly are like, yeah, this is really cool. I no longer am like, yeah, man, I got to go to practice. It's fun, because we didn't get to go to practice. We didn't get to be in person. I think the biggest thing I learned is just like relationships. There's a tremendous value in being in the room and getting to know people. So I think that's what I learned. Obviously, take nothing for granted, and also be resourceful. Phone, Zoom. There are things that we've learned that we're going to carry forward in the industry further. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is that it's so important to be there, to be face to face with the people you're reporting on, the people you work with.
I think that's great advice, and something we can all use in the future as well, whether we have another pandemic or we don't. Fingers crossed. But James, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations, our 2021 New Jersey Sports Writer, co-Sportswriter of the Year.
Thank you so much.